Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. Today we are on day 4 of JoyTangle, which is a beautiful holiday themed Zentangle challenge that I am hosting. And we have 25 prompts going from 1st of December all the way till Christmas, till 25th of December. And I have created a list of 25 different tangles or prompts for you to create beautiful compositions every day and join in the festive fun. Now, you can, of course, choose to use the prompts in any order that you like. There are no rules and regulations over here, but I'm going linear with the list, the way I had written these prompts down. So for me, today is day 4, and the prompt is called Gingo, which is a beautiful tangle by CZT Lisa Chang, inspired by ginkgo leaves. And we're going to be creating a composition with that. So, I'm basically going to start off with my red pen and I'm going to create these ginkgo leaves with wavy stems. And I'm purposely going with wavy stems because I want to add another tangle later on which has a curvy, wavy quality to it. And you'll see that in a few minutes once I get to it. Now, usually when we add these lines inside Gingo, they are very close together and they're usually done with a very thin pen, your standard 01 pen, for example, that you're using for your standard Zentangle work. But in this particular case, because I want my compositions to look very joyful and festive with a lot of color pops in them, I'm purposely going with slightly thicker sections and I'm going to color them alternate red and white to create like a sort of striped effect, very similar to how you have candy canes. And I'm trying to bring in these little familiar Christmas themes or Christmas patterns into my Zentangle compositions to add to that overall holiday spirit and holiday vibe. And so that's why I am going in with thicker sections. But if you don't like to have thick sections in your drawing and you like the intricate details of using a 01 pen and you actually want to create it as close to the step out, then you can definitely go with the thinner pen and create thinner lines as well. Totally no rules and regulations over here. Zentangle has no mistakes and no rules. Okay, so once I had a couple of those red ones in place, then I moved on to adding a few green ones. And I'm, of course, your standard rules of composition, you either go with 3s or 5s, and you basically play with your focal elements in odd numbers. So I'm going with 5 leaves over here, and I've gone for 3 green ones and 2 red ones. But of course, there's no, like I said, there's no rule over here that you have to go with these colors or these many numbers or these many leaves. So you can totally switch these around or customize them in so many different ways. So do whatever you feel is best for you. Now, once I colored in those leaves, you will also see me going back to the stems and sort of accentuating them a little bit. So I'm making them slightly thicker and emphasizing them a little bit more because I want them to stand out against the background. And I'm not really going to put a background directly under these leaves, but I'm going to create a surrounding pattern. And I do want these to stand out as focal elements. So that's why I'm sort of accentuating the stems a little bit. Alright, and once I had that in place, I moved on to adding another tangle called Diva Dance. Now, there are so many different versions and variations of Diva Dance that are out there, and you can use any of them literally to fill up the space. But I like to go for this classic approach where you kind of like aura out a given shape or a given section and then add bumps to certain areas on those wavy lines, and then create another line which kind of echoes the original line or basically creates an aura around the original line, and then you keep following it up. Now, as per the original step outs, you'll notice that sometimes we don't add bumps. So, for example, you have one line with bumps and then two without bumps, and then another one with a bump, and then two without bumps, and so on and so forth. So, it's totally up to you whether you want to, go alternate with the bumpy lines and the non bumpy lines, or if you want to add bumps to every consecutive line that you're placing on the composition. So it's totally up to you. So in this case, I'm actually adding bumps to pretty much every line that I'm adding, and that's because I want to create a balance of colors. So I do want to introduce more of the lighter green, and also balance out the darker green, which is why every time that I'm switching my pen, I'm purposely adding some more bumps so that we can get pops of color in all that white space that we have. Diva Dance is a very, very simple tangle and also very satisfying to draw. So if you're a Zentangle beginner, then this is the perfect tangle to add to your beginner tiles because it's a very, very forgiving pattern. You can literally never go wrong when it comes to Diva Dance. Alright, so with all that empty space covered, now it was time to address all those remaining negative spaces between the leaves. So I used a similar technique. I basically came back, created certain sections inside those spaces, and then started to add little bumps on them, very similar to how we add them in Diva Dance. Again, switching the pens as I'm going inside because I want to create a nice balance of colors. Alright, and once that was done, it was time to add some yummy gold and white details, which is to bring in the glam and all that pizzazz in the drawing and to basically build up that festive feeling. So just using lots and lots of gold and lots of white and embellishing the patterns. Usually for embellishments, I try to use similar shapes in all my compositions, especially when I'm creating a series, because these little embellishments can act as a unifying force. So when you have lots and lots of different patterns, or when you have lots and lots of focal images across so many of your drawings or compositions in the same series, then what sort of brings them together or what unifies them together is these little embellishments, because they are the familiar elements in all of those pieces. And since I'm going to be working on so many different tangles for 25 days, I thought I'll try to keep two things consistent. One will be my color palette, which is basically the same set of colors that I'm using for all the 25 days. And then the second thing, or two, is going to be my embellishments. So I'm going to use similar strokes and a similar visual language when it comes to the little embellishments and the little details that I'm going to add to all my 25 drawings. And so when you look at them together, they will look like a complete series. Once I had done the embellishments for the ginkgo leaves, then I started to add some sections of gold inside the Diva Dance areas as well. So I added little dots and then other little wavy fragments. And again, this is all dependent on your personal choice and your aesthetic. If you don't like overcrowded patterns and if you like to have a lot of breathing space and negative space in your compositions, then you might not want to add these embellishments and create such a dense pattern. But for me, I personally like to add these little details here and there, which is sort of like, it's neither minimalist nor maximalist. It's kind of like a mediumalist, if that's a word. So yeah, I'm somewhere in the middle. I like to have a balance of white and patterns in my compositions. And in fact, later on in the series, I'll probably do some patterns which are more easy on the eye and which have a lot more airy vibe to them, which have a lot more negative space to them. But for now, I'm starting off strong with all these pattern and elements heavy compositions to sort of see where my series is going to go. And then I think by the time I reach day 8 or 9, I might just start to see some similarities, or I might start to analyze how I want my series to shape up. So I'll probably have a nice balance of minimalist patterns and maximalist pieces, and I'll start to sort of then gauge a little bit better, how many compositions I want to keep dense and how many I want to keep light. So yeah, that's a tomorrow or like a day 9 problem. Not even a problem, it's a day 9 decision, to be honest. So right now I'm just basically going heavy on all these details. And same thing with the white pen, because I wanted to add some white areas of interest which kind of act like little highlight pops here and there, and also they sort of balance out the composition a little bit more. And going back in with the white pen inside the leaves as well to outline those gold elements. Again, it just adds one more tiny level of detailing. Okay, and look at all that gold shining. And time to remove the washi tape. And that's how it looks after the washi. Bring together all the previous drawings and see how they look together. So we have day 1, 2, and day 3 all together. And you can automatically, I think, make out over here that the one with the safflower and lichen that we did on day 2 is comparatively lighter as a composition to the other 3. In fact, today's composition is somewhere in the middle. The first 2 were really heavy. Today's is sort of like a medium composition, and then we have a lighter pattern. So similarly, going forward, I'm going to create a balance between all the the different styles as well as the different densities and the details in the composition that we're making. So eventually, once all the 25 pieces are made together, they will look like a complete series. At least that's what I'm aiming for. So now, if you're not subscribed to my channel, you know that there's some motivation for you to come back and see whether I succeeded in this attempt or not. So make sure that you hit the subscribe button and come back very, very soon for you to see me posting more tutorials of this series and see whether I succeed or I fail in this challenge. And I will see you very, very soon. Till then, keep creating. Bye bye.